Good morning and welcome to the Weekender. We have a ton of stuff to talk about. A lot of it these guys don't know about. We're going to be covering a little bit from Gen Con. We're going to be talking about Hasbro. And Hasbro, I applaud you. They are... Wait,
something amazing, I assume?
It's very amazing. It has the potential to potentially change our industry. Did I really say the potential to potentially change?
I think you potentially did.
Yes, if you've read Tom Kirby's outgoing preamble before he's ejected into the wilderness by Games Workshop shareholders, which is unlikely to happen, but he talks about 3D printing, and we're not worried about 3D printing. 3D printing's never going to happen, blah, 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 blah.
Wait, he said that?
Yep. Way to go, Games Workshop. You're just showing, your innovation, your commitment. In the meantime, Hasbro are embracing 3D printing. We'll be talking about it in the show. We've also got a lot of 40K stuff to talk about. We've got the 40K campaign. The build for the first environment is underway. We'll be showing a clip about that. And my big topic for it, 40K. Our missions in 40K, the route to the best games in 40K you've ever played. For all of that and more, watch the show. So welcome to the show.
Hey everyone.
Morning.
I hope you've had a great week of gaming. We have. It's been fantastic. There's a ton of stuff coming out of Gen Con. And yes, before you say anything, I know it kind of looks like we've invited you to the dinner table. So right now you're probably looking at this thinking, whoa, I feel like I'm at dinner with Beasts of War. Or worse,
I feel like
I'm at a job interview with Beasts of War. Yeah, we have
How many people's dream would that be?
We have a new big ass table that we're playing with at the moment and trying to work out our options. But it's a big table that allows us to do the Weekender, and it extends and it does all kinds of funky stuff, which is
plenty of room for our games.
Plenty of room for our games,
And it's solid.
It's very solid and very, very heavy. Last week we had a microphone issue.
Lloyd, you mean when I sounded like I was on the phone?
Lloyd sounded the entire show. He sounded like he was on the telephone.
Lloyd sounded like he was far away.
I'm calling in. It's Lloyd calling in from Australia.
Hopefully that's sorted.
We're all sitting giggling about it.
We could all sound like we're on the phone.
We all sound like bloody chipmunks.
Anyway, to get started, before we get stuck into everything, okay, we got a nice letter. We actually got a letter through the post.
So hang on, has someone tracked us down again?
A Beast of War member, Sean.
What's a letter? Do they exist?
Yeah, we got a letter. He sent us a letter, and it says, to the Beast of War. Hi, guys. I'm due to be getting married soon. Congratulations. Congratulations, mate. And he's been having quite a ruthless clear-out. And he's been trying to find homes that will appreciate some of the more nostalgic bits and pieces that he's picked up over the years. The thing that he sent us, he picked up when he was 15. He went to Games Day 96 and was completely in awe of the whole thing. I remember this because I felt the same at Games Day 2009 or Games Day 2010.
2010, because it's the first one I did with you guys.
2010 was just...
It was the last great one.
Fabulous. It was fabulous. Anyway, it was around the time of the launch of the Lizard Men, and he ended up meeting a load of the Games Workshop staff, and he got them to sign the thing. So look at this. This is what he sent. This is the program from Games Day 96.
Oh, wow.
And on the second page, we've got a whole bunch of signatures for a load of the staff and White Dwarf crew. And in this is a load of embarrassing pictures of some of the people. What do you see this? See how many of these folk you actually recognize. Well, do you recognize that guy there?
No, because he's upside down.
Right. Mike McVeigh.
Let's see him not upside down.
Yeah, it is Mike McVeigh.
Oh, yeah.
Mike McVeigh, you've barely changed, mate. You still look the same. maybe a little tiny bit fresher back then. Okay, let's see who we have here. Do you recognize this gentleman here?
I'm going to guess Jake Thornton.
That is Jake Thornton.
Let's have a wee look.
Jake, you have changed quite a bit.
Where is he?
There.
No way.
Yes, that's Jake.
What's with the long hair?
It's back when Jake looked like the little. Do you remember the little guy off the WWE, the little hardcore money guy that had his hair tied back into a ponytail?
Before my time.
And he had the big red face because his blood pressure and all was up.
Before
Yeah,
my
you look
time,
a bit
thank
like
God.
that. We have Jervis and all in there, and it's actually a really interesting read because the passion for what they're doing and stuff just drips off it. The best thing about it, though, Sean, is all these signatures. We have Jake Thornton's signature in there as well. Jake, we are currently scanning it and putting it on a series of fraud checks that we will be cashing very shortly.
Hooray, my Christmas bonus.
All joking aside, Sean goes on to say he takes a lot from Beasts of War, and he often wishes he could support the community and do more for the community and
It's
stuff
very
like
nice
that.
to give
So-
up something that's signed. Are we
Yes.
supposed to send it back?
No. What this is going to do, like some of the other kind of nostalgic and interesting bits and pieces that we've picked up over the years, this will go into the Beasts of War Hall of Fame. Okay, we're gradually building up lots of interesting things. They might be old board games. They might be
Ancient
minis and stuff like that. And our hope is that someday that this whole Beasts of War community will grow up big enough that we'll be able to get a dedicated space somewhere where we might be able to have like a Hall of Fame in it where we can have cool things and interesting stuff. So
If anybody's
Sean,
watching
thank
and thinking, oh, ancient minis, I'm going to send you all my lead minis. I don't want a room full of lead rot.
you. Somebody,
Yeah, we're worried about that.
we had the episode where Justin opened his box,
Yeah.
and in it was a bunch of old
Well,
minis.
it wasn't exactly a box, it was a tin.
A tin, and then it was a bunch of old D&D minis.
Yeah.
Okay, I love this because that's all fine. We have a giggle on the show. Later on in the comments, okay, somebody posts about, oh, you got to be careful. That could be lead rot. That's highly poisonous.
Yep, at which
Of
point
course.
Lloyd goes, no, get it
Lloyd-
away from me!
Lloyd, the
What?
number 2 hypochondriac in the world,
Yep.
after the number 1 hypochondriac in the world,
No, Lloyd's worse than you.
it was like, yeah, he probably is worse
Yeah.
than me. We often say in my family, Lloyd's first word was disease. Like,
Was not.
yes, it was. Our mother is convinced that Lloyd died in a plague in his past life, and he came out, and when he was about 2 years old, his first words were disease. Anyway,
He means,
lead rot
he
was-
means when I come out of my mother.
all right. Lead rot was all he needed to see. So now Lloyd is like rampaging around the studio, going, "Is there any old
Why
lead
is
in
that
here?
tin
Yes,
still
get
here?
this
Why
tin
is it
out
not
here."
gone, Justin?
I have to admit, it does disturb me because I thought all I had to worry about was resin dust. Resin
Yeah,
dust.
I remember
Yeah.
you used to be god awful for it. Anytime anyone was working with the smallest piece of resin, get the dust masks. No!
But to be fair, he's right.
Yeah,
He's right. You know, you've got to take a lot of care, and it's always better to be too careful than
Not careful
than
enough,
not
yeah.
careful enough. So, anyway, Sean, massive thank you. That was great, and it's another collector's piece that we're gonna.
That is
Hopefully
great. I'm gonna have a
someday.
look at all them signatures later.
Yeah,
and count
we're gonna-
up who's in it.
We're going to put that into the
Well,
Beasts of War
if I'm
Hall of
right,
Fame.
I think those are signed in the location they were in the hall. Just from the way they're laid out.
Well,
Who knows?
who knows? So, this week saw the end of Gen Con for another year. So that's Gen Con 14 now over. Our crew that were there, Gianna, Dawn, and Alan, had a whale of a time. And Red Ben, one of our core community members and one of the contributors to the site, was also there. I gotta say, Red Ben, man, you are a demon. I've been reading his report, and it's like, do you know this whole thing? You sleep when you're dead.
Yeah.
He lives that. You know, he was like, he's like a kung fu
I think I may
master
have
of
seen
gaming.
one comment about him starting a game of something at midnight and playing
Till
till
4
4
in the
a.m.
morning.
Yeah, he is a demon of gaming. But you know what? I so admire that. That is work hard, play hard there at its absolute best. We have a ton of Gen Con footage and stuff coming up that we're going to be putting out over the next week, so you can get little glimpses of what it's like to be there. And who knows, then maybe next year we'll all meet up. Maybe we'll all get to Gen Con.
Hooray, I might get to try some American food.
Maybe that's what we should take to Kickstarter. Not Kickstart for us to get to Gen Con, because we're pretty much sorted now that we should be able to go.
So what,
But we should Kickstart the entire Beasts of War viewing audience to go to Kickstarter. What would we need to
would
raise?
say maybe
Well,
go
no,
a
no,
little
you've-
10
smaller
million
than
would
that.
do it, wouldn't it?
No, you've lost me. The entire viewing audience to go to Kickstarter.
Oh, sorry, to go to Gen
Con.
Con.
Yeah.
So we're going to Kickstart the entire Beasts of War audience is going to Gen
Right.
Con.
I think if you're doing that, start small. Do a Kickstarter to generate enough to bring, say, 10 Beasts of War community members to Gen Con who are lucky winners who are chosen.
He's taking this seriously.
He is
isn't
taking
Yeah. Of course, Justin tries to bring it into the world of the real. No, man, that's not going to work.
Okay.
It's all or nothing. We take everybody. We don't leave any man or woman behind.
Speaking of man, if you're going to try lots of American food when you're there, then you may start watching Man vs. Food.
I have seen it. I hate it.
Ah,
What?
well,
I'm sorry. I feel sorry for
But
that
he
poor
eats
guy.
the whole sort of crap I think you'd eat.
it's all meat.
Yes,
Yeah, I know, but it's the absolute quantity that man stuffs down his neck.
You eat
Justin,
4,500
You eat
calories a day.
4,500. Justin has worked this out after Fit Club.
I'll
I'll give an update on Fit Club, by the way. I haven't given up on it, and there's still some guys in the community who are still working away. Dead Dave, one of the community members, is
Oh
getting
man, he
really,
just got buff as
he's
hell.
getting really buff now. We're enjoying watching that.
Yeah, he's going as the Hulk.
I'll be
Yeah,
going.
it's
I'm going to get my first appointment at the gym soon, so I'm getting
Okay.
to that stage. My problem was,
Wait, let me just laugh about that. Going to the gym.
yeah, thanks for the support, bro.
I'm saying nothing because I will be hanging my head in shame
My
in a minute.
Fit Club ended up. It didn't start with what I expected it to start with. It started with. It turns out I'm intolerant to gluten. So for this last few months, I've been trying to cut down on gluten and get away from gluten. It also turns out I have an intolerance to dairy, which is bloody brilliant. So it's now gluten and dairy.
Yeah, so no more milky tea.
Do you want to know what else? Peanuts.
What?
I
Right,
have an intolerance to peanuts.
right.
All those times when I ate a huge bag of peanuts and had cramps and stuff like that, and I thought, oh, I've just eaten too many peanuts. It wasn't too many peanuts.
It was an actual medical reaction.
I have
Okay.
an
Hold
intolerance
on a
to
minute.
peanuts.
It's taken you what?
37 years.
37 years to figure this out.
75,
No, it'll be 38 years.
75% of men in Ireland apparently have an intolerance to gluten and they don't know it.
Right.
And the reason for that is that gluten, we don't, in this part of Europe, over in this part of Europe, grains and products from grains has only really been introduced in the last few hundred years.
Right.
In the Middle East, however, there's a very low amount of gluten intolerance because grains and breads and things have been there for thousands of years.
So in other words, our digestive systems are still getting used to it.
Well, it's like milk in Japan. In the Far East, there's a lot of milk intolerance for a cultural thing.
Okay.
In the Middle East, they're fine with all the grains. Over here, we didn't have a lot of grains, so they've been introduced. The other interesting thing, there's 50% more gluten in the food today than there was 50 years ago. So make of that what you will. So anyway, there's your Fit Club update.
Well,
Right.
before you get off that, I will hang my head in shame for a moment because I made an attempt to quit smoking and failed abysmally.
You made an expression to quit smoking.
Yeah, you
I
didn't make
got
an
the
attempt.
tablets. I was on the tablets, and it just didn't take this time.
You just didn't take that.
Mhm. Anyway,
I'm at least holding my hands up to it.
after Fit Club was started, Justin then reliably informed me that he eats 4,500 calories per day.
I used the diet website that you do. I punched in what I eat in a day, and that's what it came up as.
4,500 calories per day, and he's
And-
like a beanpole.
I'm 10.5 stone.
Yes, it's enough to sicken you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
But-
actually ridiculous. I don't know why.
I think every one of us have a friend like that,
of
probably.
course.
Right, Gen Con.
Yep.
I want to talk about a couple of little highlights from Gen Con, okay? The first one is Star Wars Armada, because everybody's talking about Star Wars Armada. It's the new game from Fantasy Flight Games.
I knew there was big ships coming out,
Yep,
but is it a tweak to the rule set? Is it additional
different rules.
This
It's not
seems
X-Wing.
to be, you know,
It's
the
not
way we
X-Wing.
had the 4
It's not
levels of
X-Wing.
wargaming come
Let me
out.
see this. Let me see this picture. So there's no X-wings on this.
There are,
Oh,
but
but they're little X-wings.
they're little X-wings.
Let's change
So
scale.
what
Right.
they've created is this is the entire armada. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is Star Destroyers, blockade runners, and things like that,
Mhm.
and then little squadrons of X-wings and squadrons of TIE fighters.
Mhm.
You can have squadrons versus capital ships. You
Right.
can have capital ships versus capital ships.
Mhm.
You can have squadrons versus squadrons doing dogfights. It sounds utterly fabulous.
So I'm imagining this is you taking the next step up on your 4 levels of wargaming.
Yes, if we take it back to Orkanesi's article series where he talks about the levels of wargaming, this is possibly one level up, okay? Possibly. But we'll have to wait and see. We have a demo game of it filmed, or a kind of like a first impressions filmed by Gian and Don, our crew at Gen Con. So whenever we get a chance to watch that, we'll get a better idea of how it all plays. But the guy from Fantasy Flight Games, whenever Don said, I haven't played X-Wing, he said, that's great, because it's different from X-Wing. So that'll help.
Yeah, so you won't have the habits of X-Wing to bring into it.
Yeah. I think it's great. It'll be interesting to see, is it just a standalone board game? I highly doubt that, because with the success of X-Wing, which I'm going to be talking about in Backstage,
Mhm.
in Backstage we've got a whole big segment. The US hobby sales
Mhm.
for the first time have reached $700 million. I have a breakdown of how it all breaks down.
$700 million.
I would, but I haven't shaved my head.
I have a breakdown of it, and I have a breakdown of the top 10 kind of miniatures games and stuff
So
like that. There.
who's the winners this year?
Who the winners, who's the losers. The industry's the winner, but we'll be talking about that in Backstage.
Cool.
But X-Wing is right up there. And if they can repeat that success with Star Wars Armada, and of course they can,
Yeah.
we could be looking at a stonkingly good game.
I assume it's going to be the same sort of pattern, pre-painted, pop them
Yep.
out of the box.
It's all
play.
pre-painted. You just pop open the box, roll out a star mat, and away you go. Oh man! And our team asked them. So everybody wants to know: will you be doing will you be doing a Death Star? And in true Fantasy Flight style, we didn't get an answer, but he did give a wry smile.
Aha.
Mm.
You
How cool
can't
would
have a
that be?
Death Star at this scale. You could have a section of a Death Star.
That's a small moon. Of course, you can have a Death Star.
As a Super Star Destroyer crashed into the Death Star, and it wasn't very big compared to the Death Star.
So
that's
you're
true,
thinking you
actually.
can maybe get a tenth of it on just
am
a
I
little
just
segment
being,
on the
am
corner
I,
of the
or
board?
am I just being miserable right
No,
now?
you're not being miserable. You're absolutely right. If you took clearly this stuff is not exactly the scale. It is representations, okay? So the TIE fighters and the X-Wings and all are too big, okay?
Yeah.
So it's all just representations. If you take it that they don't care about scale, it's
Then it's
about
fine.
representations of it, maybe, but it kind of seems a bit pointless having one big Death Star unit. Excuse the pun. Because a Death Star would
I
be
don't
able to wipe out almost all of that on its
Yeah,
own.
but if it's
See you later,
if it's,
fellas.
if it,
I'm way to
if
go
it's
and
used
buy a
as an
beach ball
objection
and
piece,
spray it grey.
Yeah.
if it's used as an objective piece, so you must reach this point of the board, at which point you're changing over to the Death Star board.
Boring.
Yeah,
Boring.
boring.
I just thought a possibility.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. There's a ton of things that they can explore in Star Wars. There's no point in creating a model for something that there was only ever 1.5 of.
Okay.
1.5.
No, there was 1.5. So it's
But they both worked.
yes.
And did they both have the exact same flaw?
Well, actually, no, only one was fully operational. The other
flaw
one never
was slightly
reached.
different in both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So the other thing I want to talk about from Gen Con, another
No,
highlight.
they both ended up fully operational because he goes. Your friends will witness the
Oh, yes,
firepower of
you're-
this fully operational battle station.
Yes, you're right. You're right. The other one that I wanted to quickly talk about is Sons of Anarchy from Gale Force 9.
Yep.
Now, the reason I want to talk about that is while the guys were over at Gen Con playing that, we got a game of that as well.
We did indeed.
And
Now, I will admit I goofed one of the rules, which I will explain later.
we're going to be doing a full review probably in next weekend's Weekender. We're going to talk about it in depth.
Did this rule cause me to lose?
No, it was the injury rule that I goofed on. I made it more severe than it should have been.
Oh, that's no. Unfortunate. I wanted to kill more things.
No, it wouldn't have worked. Sons of Anarchy, the new board game from Gale Force 9. It's based on the TV series, which is actually really good if you haven't seen it.
You finally started watching it.
Yeah. The game, however, is brilliant. The game is really, really good. If you enjoyed Spartacus, you're going to enjoy this game.
It's funny when you laid it out, though, because I was looking at it going, it looks like a load of pub mats for beers.
Yeah, that's the first thing Warren said when we had it on the show. Just what I want in a box. Beer mats.
Yeah, beer mats.
But no, it's the actual locations from the show.
Yeah, without going into too much detail, I want to try and paint a picture of what the game's like. It's a fast, full-on race to the finish type game. Okay, there are some games that are highly strategic. Demigods Rising being one of them, which we're going to be covering next in this show.
Yeah, but Sons of Anarchy is strategic in its own way.
Yes, but it's a full-on fast action get to the finish. You know, get the most
It is a bit of
cash.
a dash for the cash.
It is a dash for the cash.
You saw how much cash Warren ended up with at the end of that bloody game.
Yeah, but he was the banker. How do we know he wasn't just dropping them in?
I drop in. Oh, I'm owed 4. Take 5.
Well,
Because you had a mountain of cash
Here is
compared to
your
the rest
money.
of us.
Oop, where'd that fall to? Oh, it fell into my pile, did it?
Yeah.
I can guarantee you.
Skimming off the top?
Guarantee you, I didn't skim anything.
And you
off
were
the top.
playing Sam Crow.
Yes,
And they are known for that.
For skimming off the top, are they? For
Well,
bank robberies. Well,
Well,
anyway,
not bank robberies.
unlike the Spartacus game where there is a built-in you must cheat and annoy Justin, there's no you must cheat in this game.
You still managed it.
I didn't manage it, and we'll talk about it anyway. But it's a great game. You are controlling
One of the 4 gangs.
You're controlling a gang. Your gang. You're picking up guns and contraband. But the ultimate goal at the end of the game is to have the largest pile of cash from everybody else. When you told me that became my mission, and that's why I had a huge pile of cash. Because while you guys were faffing about with your combats with each other and buying contraband.
Yeah, he was just sitting quietly in the corner working away, having the odd combat so as not to look too far out of it.
My entire mission became about working out how do I make the most cash possible.
I did get slightly distracted with how can I wipe this person out?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's not possible.
Well,
But
there was
there-
that one moment where everybody on the table was just going, right, let's get Justin.
Yes. Well,
And there are beautiful moments like that in the game where it's just, right, we all need to get him, we need to stop him.
there's a couple of fantastic mechanics. One I want to talk about, though, is the contraband mechanic, okay?
Yep.
Contraband is superb. So you're picking up contraband, probably drugs or whatever it would be. And then at the end of each game turn, everybody can cash in their contraband.
Yes.
But the more that gets cashed in, the less it's worth. And it's absolutely brilliant because everybody's gathering it up, which means that as the game goes on, contraband becomes less and less valuable. And yet people are still focusing on trying to get this contraband. And it was brilliant. I got to say, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it was
it's not
simple.
that it becomes less valuable because as your heat goes up, you're able to sell less.
Heat is a thing that, as you...
It's how much attention the cops are paying to
how
you.
much attention you're bringing to yourself. But in a nutshell, it's a nice, simple game. I've got to say, by turn 2, we were all pretty au fait with the whole thing. Strategically, I started to really get it from about turn 2.
When we were first playing it, first couple of turns, I was sitting thinking, I'm not entirely interested. And then by about turn 3, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah, it just once it clicks, you're.
Was the problem
just
not that the
fascinated.
football was on above and behind my head in our little
Well, I
game
missed
club?
every goal anyway, so it didn't really matter.
Very true.
Anyway, right, we're going to take a very quick break. After this break, we're coming back and we're going to do a review of Demigods Rising. You've got to see this game. If you like your tactical board games and something that you're going to be able to spend hours and hours and hours enjoying this game, you've got to watch this. So we'll be right back after this. And welcome back. Okay, so Demigods Rising is currently on Kickstarter. It's down to its last few days. You might want to get in on this one. Myself and Justin got an opportunity to play a game very recently, and I've got to say, this is one of the standout little board games.
Mm-hmm.
I say little, there's nothing little about this game. This
There
is
are-
one of the
there are quite a
standout
few
board
bits to
games
it.
I have played in the last couple of years.
Well, when I seen it, I browsed down the page. I've seen some miniatures and things, and I thought, okay, it's got miniatures and stuff. But when I actually seen this layout,
yeah.
that I really got interested in, I thought, ooh, this looks really cool. And you guys, since you've played the game, I didn't get to play. Oh, have been saying how good it is, and you've enjoyed it and stuff.
Yep.
So I'm keen to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Okay, well, let me start with what this game is and what this game isn't, okay? This game has a lot going on in it, okay? So this is going to be a game that could potentially become a hobby. Not only for you, but it could potentially become a hobby in itself.
Really?
Yes, and I'll discuss how I can see that happening. It's a highly strategic and tactical game, okay? It's very, very killy. It has a lot of interesting mechanics that are going to take you about 3 or 4 turns, okay? Your first turn is going to feel very much like an opening in chess, okay? But after that, turn 2 starts to get killy. Turn 3 really starts to get
I don't want to get
interesting.
too far into what do you mean opening move in chess?
Okay.
Well, the turn 1 is all about deploying your miniatures.
So you are interacting with the
Yes.
table space then?
Yes, you are. If I take it back a level, okay, it starts with the meta game, okay? And if I can say what this board game's not, if you think that this is going to be some very quick pull out and play game, yes, it's potentially that, but it'll be that after you've played a couple of games of it, you'll be able to get onto it much quicker. But don't expect to come into this game as a complete amateur, as a complete novice, and expect to get it straight away. It's going to take a little bit of time and practice, the same way as Magic the Gathering. I can't help but get undertones of Magic the Gathering from the likes of this. So.
The way I described it after we had played our game was, this is the kind of thing you can imagine, the 2 planeswalkers summoning their monsters to
Yes.
fight each other on the battlefield.
Yeah. If Magic the Gathering ever became a tabletop game,
Similar to this.
this is how I would imagine it. It's so fabulous. It's so well done. Right, let's start with the meta game, okay? The game is based around the fact that there are 4 demigods, okay? And these demigods are competing to take over from the god
of war.
the god of war. So what we have here is we have a demigod that's geared around defense. He's called the Protector. He has a fabulous, fabulous miniature. And on the other side, we have a demigod called the Warlord. We have only a chit for him. And he's very, very aggressive and very killy.
Oh, that's what these are. All
Yeah.
representations of minis.
Yes.
So the demigods then have, is it 5 minions?
5, yep.
Now, you could play with more, you could play with less. We played with 5. How you choose your minions, again, you have lots of options there. We played using an option where basically we broke the minions up into their core types. So if you want to talk us through that.
Right, so first thing we did was we split them up into types. So this is a tank.
Yep.
And
So a
that's
tank
a
is
warrior.
a very defensive character.
Yeah, it's that. Imagine World of Warcraft. If you've played, you know what a tank is.
Yeah.
You then have a warrior who's
Yep.
basically going forward. Yes, he can take a hit,
Yep.
but he's really up for more damage than anything else.
Yeah.
You then have your archers.
Yep.
We all know what an archer does.
Yep.
They're your ranged fighters.
Yep.
You have your spellcasters,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have your rogues, which is
Yeah.
over there, because you got archers, but I got rogues.
And this is a
Yes,
rogue.
that would be one of the rogues there. You
Yeah.
find the symbol for it just in the top corner here.
Mhm.
So tank, it's 3 shields. Archer, it's arrows. Rogue, it's a wee
dagger.
dagger.
Mhm.
Warrior's an axe, and the spellcaster is a little bit.
Yeah.
Couldn't be simpler.
So once you've broken them up into piles, you randomize them, and then you each draw two from each pile, but 1 from the mage pile.
Yeah, so it's 2 from the tank and warrior pile,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 from the archer and rogue pile, and 1 from your spellcaster pile.
So once you've done that, you then have what is basically your force. You have your demigod, and you have his minions or his combatants.
His heroes.
Now, you then sort them by their initiative order, okay? And initiative is this little red flag here. This one has initiative 8, 7, 6, 6, and 4, okay?
Yes, and when they're the same, you can choose which way to place them, and that can give you an advantage if you're clever about it.
Now, this is where this game is genius, okay? And why the meta of this game is so interesting. Whenever you're placing them out, if they're of the same race,
So
okay?
here we have 2 elves.
2 elves, and here we have 2 dwarves. If they're of the same race, they give each other a buff, a morale buff, which is represented by this little green cube.
Yes.
So each of them get an extra morale point. And that morale point helps them in defense
And attack.
It's
essentially a +1.
What did you mean by laying them out? You mean laying them
When
side
you
by
lay them out,
side,
you
or-
lay them out in initiative order, so highest to lowest.
Now, although we played it at drawing at random, there's no reason why you couldn't do a draft, like a kind of Magic the Gathering draft where Justin would start. It's a game for 2 players.
Or 4.
Or 4
there is no
players.
3-player option as far as I know.
So Justin would draw one and then pass it on to the next person who'd draw one, pass it on to the next. The next pile, I would draw one first, and then Justin would get to draw last, and then the next pile. So you could do a draft. Or you could potentially even write out an army list, and say,
you could look at it and say, right,
you could say,
what can I build here that'll give me the best combos for the game that I want to try against my mate?
So the fact that these 2 guys are side by side, they give each other a morale bonus.
Yes, and same for these. So 2 elves, 2 dwarves.
They get a morale bonus as well.
Yep.
But
You're saying side by side, so if they weren't side by side, they wouldn't get morale, but they wouldn't buff
No,
each other.
they have to be touching.
yes.
So this edge has to touch, or this edge has to touch.
But you've laid them out in order of
Initiative.
In order of initiative. So there was a chance that whenever they were drawn out, that they weren't going to be touching.
Yeah, so if you quickly look at my side, Lloyd, you'll see that none of them have that because of the way they've ended up being laid out from that random draw. So I never got that bonus, but I got different bonuses.
You don't do this. You just happen. This happens.
This
is what
happens.
Oh, okay.
Whenever you do
So
it
this
randomly.
happens, and because they're together, this is what happens.
So it's a little bit of randomness to the game that excites things and changes it up.
It gives you nice combos that you can suddenly go, ooh, actually, I've got that.
I didn't expect that, or oh yeah, I had this before and it's great.
Yeah. So it's a really nice combo or a buff or whatever way you want to call it. It doesn't stop there though. There's also combos whenever they have the same attack type.
Yep. So we have
this one,
2 archers.
we have 2 archers, green and green, and they get this, which gives them
a single reroll for one or the other during the turn.
Okay, so they get a buff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this made Warren's side very powerful during the game.
And again, that just happened.
It just happened
just
because
happened because of
they
the way
happened
things
to
came
be
out.
beside each other, so there was a buff there that they were able to get.
Yeah.
Now, what this creates is this fabulous opportunity to start spotting weak or potential links in the chain that you want to take out. Okay, so let me give you an example.
Let me just ask one simple question then. So, do you kind of deck build in this game then?
You could deck build, yeah. You could quite.
If you
I
want to play that
would
way.
see absolutely no reason why. At the start, there's obviously what there is in the game.
These cards obviously come out of a set.
Yes.
You obviously choose what's in the set.
You can choose, or you can have it drawn randomly. That was why we were
Or
talking
you,
about
you do the
game
draft
modes.
where you're trying to outsmart your opponent going, right, I'm going to take him, and hopefully he won't take him, so that when it comes back to me, I can get him to get this bonus.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's different ways that you can play it, and that's why it has that undertones of Magic the Gathering for me. But as I was saying, as an opponent, once you see this, you can start to say, I can see key points in his chain there that I want to break. Because
So
if I
that's
can
the hero
break
I
that,
want dead to break this bonus that he's getting. Because for me, during that game, I looked at the Sentinel and I thought, right, the Pegasus Knight has 38 health, which is in the top right corner.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Gunner has 29, but the Sentinel only has 24.
Yeah.
So if I'm following you, for example, because these guys are linked
Yep.
like that,
This one's linked two ways.
I may decide he's the prime target, or
That's the
Exactly.
weak link. That's the one I
Yes.
want to break.
because that will break up that buff and that buff.
Exactly.
Exactly. It breaks up the morale bonus and the reroll bonus. And what happens is whenever you kill someone, their card gets completely removed,
And what, they just slide
and
together?
everything slides up.
It all shunts up.
So suddenly he's no longer getting his reroll, and she's no longer getting her +1 morale.
So you're starting to break the synergy of the army.
That's kind of cool.
Isn't that really cool?
That is cool.
So basically, the game is then runs in initiative order. You each have these 2 dice, which are called your warlord dice.
Yep.
So at the start, each player would roll off, and whoever scores highest, that would be this one in this case, would then get to go first.
Yep.
It then runs in initiative order, unless your initiatives are the same, in which case you roll your warlord dice again to see who goes first.
Yep.
So it has this nice ebb and flow to the game. So it's not like a I go, you go type of
it's not just, okay, let's do this, your turn, my turn, let's grind it down.
So it's as strategic as you're thinking in this, you have to bear in mind, and you have to have the presence of mind to understand that you may not get your go when you're expecting to get your go. And it adds a really heightened tension to the mechanic, which
there were points where I really wanted to go before you to do something to you, but suddenly you got the better roll than me, and it's just me going, right, now I'm having to react instead of be proactive.
Yeah. Now each character has a resource that they manage, okay? So Justin, do you want to take us through the resources? They're represented by the red, the yellow, and the blue dice.
Okay, so first up, your tanks and your warriors have what's called rage. Start of the game, they have 1 point of rage, and every time they attack someone, they gain a point. At which point, whenever they attack, they will generally be rolling. If it's a warrior, he will roll this dice, and if he's lucky enough to get this symbol here, that is giving him an extra point of rage, so he would go 2 and 3.
The little color spot corresponds to the dice that they roll for their normal attack.
The number inside it tells you how many points of damage it does basic, and if I roll, okay, that would be the extra point of rage.
We didn't see that, Justin.
Yeah, he would have got the extra point of rage. I normally roll bad. That would do -1.
Yeah, so suddenly his attack goes from doing 5 points of damage to 4 points of damage.
So are some of these dice more effective than others?
Yes.
Well, they do different things. Is the way to look at it. And you get the handy little cheat sheet cards in the box that tell you what each symbol does.
Yeah.
So it's another thing that you have to learn.
This is an interesting component in the box, okay? So this little card tells you about all the dice symbols and what they mean and what they do. This little card tells you about the class traits. So each class, that's the tanks, the warriors, the rogues, the mage, and the archers, have a little trait of their own, okay? Let me give you an example. Tanks have the ultimate defense, so they've no weak spot, which means that whenever you're attacking them from behind, there's no bonus for attacking them from behind. And they deflect -2 damage from frontal attacks. So if you attack them from the front, you have a -2 to the damage that you're inflicting upon them.
Yeah.
And that's before their armor and whatever comes into play.
So it is still worth attacking from behind.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically they're bigger and tougher, but if you're wanting to get them to normal, you go behind.
Yeah. Warriors, for example, have retaliation. So attacks back when hit from melee range, okay? So if you're up close and you attack them, they get a free attack back. So they all have these traits. Next up, we have the range and action point usage. So this is the range at which they can attack from and the number of action points that is required to do that attack. And action points are listed here in the little blue circle. So 7 action points, 8, 7, 6, and 6.
Yep.
So whenever you come on, let me give you an example. Let's say the Sentinel, okay, which is here. The Sentinel,
well, actually, that's the Pegasus Knight.
That's the Pegasus Knight. Well, we'll do the Pegasus Knight, okay?
Right. And the way the board's actually turned, you would be coming on from here or here, because the board is not exactly square.
Okay. So the Pegasus Knight has, and let's put the Protector in, okay? So the Pegasus Knight has 7 actions, okay? So let's say that this is turn 1. You deploy, that's 1 action.
Okay.
And then to work out how a character moves,
we have another little
you have
card.
another little card. Okay, so the Pegasus Knight is a tank.
Forward and backward.
Tanks can only move forwards and backwards.
Now, obviously, they can turn.
Yeah, so what they could do is, for her to attack him from behind, she needs to go 1 to deploy.
Yep. 1 point.
2.
Nope. Because you can attack from the diagonal square.
Okay. For her to attack directly from behind, she needs to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
and
6, and then you got to see if she's got if
Enough
she
points
got
left.
enough points. She had 1 point left,
Mhm.
which she can use to attack.
Yes.
Her attack is based on a
A
yellow
yellow
dice. You just roll the yellow dice,
Yep.
and she got that symbol there, which is a swirly symbol,
is a
which you go to your
knockdown.
card, and the swirly symbol is on the card,
Yep.
and you read it, and it says, knocks down target, knockdown opponents will receive +3 damage and cannot retaliate nor perform any action. So there's loads of interesting dynamics. As Justin says, she could quite rightly have also went
So you've got
one.
you've got that.
Yep.
2,
This
3.
goes on
I will
to
put
your
this
character
over
card,
there, right?
like
Mhm.
so. And if you haven't went yet, you miss your turn.
So you can see how movement and stuff like that it works up and is based on actions.
Yep.
This is where I want to interject with something interesting. Okay. At the moment, it's based on this board,
Yes.
but after playing this game, I can't see any reason why the creators of this game couldn't take it into almost like a dungeon environment. You know, in different environments where you have places blocked off, terrain and stuff
Yeah,
like
so
that.
it's an
and you
actual
have to
map done
move.
out with squares.
It's a map. I can also see this being done with 3-dimensional terrain.
You see, I would love to see a celestial arena.
Mhm.
And
So
yeah, I see what you mean by 3-dimensional terrain. So you would have higher and lower levels on the battlefield that you would have to spend a point extra to get up or
sorry.
down.
When I say 3-dimensional terrain, I just mean that you would have
blocking
walls,
walls?
blocking walls,
Okay.
and things like that, and you'd have to move around it in order to get an attack. And
Yeah, that works.
you know, there's all kinds of things that I can see that if these guys succeed and this becomes popular,
Yeah.
you know, I can see them bringing out lots of new heroes. You could just get a hero.
New gods.
They could bring out
you
maps,
want is new
all
gods.
sorts of
I don't
stuff.
know what your terrain ideas and stuff. Okay, it sounds nice, but one of the things I like about chess, for example, is it's just that abstract board.
Yeah, but it's already
clean.
there. You can play it that
Yeah,
way.
I'm saying I like it as it is.
Yeah.
Yes, you like the clean, flat area where you have no obstructions to work around.
I'm just
Other than your own movement
there,
limitation.
but I'm just saying that based on the mechanics that I have played, I
Yep.
see absolutely no reason
Yep.
why you couldn't start to mix this up in terms of where you go with it.
Yep.
So that's the kind of the basics of it.
Now we have
It
to
gets
move on.
it gets a bit more interesting now when you start to look at the kind of the special things that each character can do.
Not quite just yet, because we've done the red dice, which was rage.
Oh yes, yeah,
Now we're on to the yellow dice, which is focus. So how sharp is your archer at this time?
yeah.
So the archer obviously can do his attack from ranged.
Now this is an
400
archer, but
points.
it basically means anybody that can do a ranged attack. So he's got
Exactly.
2 guns.
Let's move the whole example over a bit.
Yep.
Okay.
So he can shoot from range.
Yes.
Now he runs off focus, which is different from rage.
Yes.
Because you don't gain it whenever you're attacking.
You only gain it at the end of the turn.
Yes. At which point you gain 2 focus at the end
Yeah.
of the turn.
Mm-hmm.
However, if say something has went horribly wrong, he's in melee with the protector.
Yep.
The protector rolls his, I think it's 9 plus 2 yellow. So when the demigods attack, they hit for a lot.
Yeah.
He would roll. He gets this symbol, which is a pushback. So
Yep.
You would push back 1 square
Mm-hmm.
and be knocked down.
Yep.
But he also does the damage.
Mhm.
On top of that damage, you also lose a focus
Yes.
for being hit. So it does rack up that your archers, you want to keep out of melee range at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, you have your mages. This is the only divine power that starts at its max.
This is mana. Yep.
Mana, exactly. So we have our overlord here. We'll just put him down on the board for
Yep.
handiness.
That's our wizards. Yep.
And now it's where we can get on to the special skills.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll put him in here, and you'll see you have 3 little things at the bottom here of things that you can do.
Yeah.
So first up, you have this little symbol, which tells you the action points required to actually do it. You then have your mana cost, which can actually transfer to your rage and your focus cost. And you then have your range. So let's say I was about to hit the protector in the back, and I decided to use Angry Spirits. It's range 5, so I can't hit him from here because it has to be on a direct line.
Yes.
So it can either be straight forward
Mm-hmm.
or straight diagonal.
So
So
he
he would be across
He'd
one.
spend an action point to move across.
Yep. He would then require 5 action points, which he still has because he has 6.
Before you would do that, though, you would want to check, can a mage move that way? And he absolutely can. So
Yep. So I will then have to spend 3 of my mana. From a 6, I go down to 3.
Mhm.
Can't see that.
So I'll go
Yeah.
down to my 3 from my 6. It then does -1 morale for 2 turns.
Yep.
So I would put the little chit onto his card,
Yep.
and then 2 of these silver cubes to mark it. I then do 10 damage plus 1 purple dice.
Basically, there's a ton of interesting things that these characters can do. They're not one-dimensional by any stretch of the
Exactly, they
imagination.
feel heroic.
There's a lot of really interesting options. So all of these dice that we've been talking about are your resource. So you build them and you spend them.
Yep.
Or if you're not building them, you're trying to retain it until the point when you're going to get the best effect out of it.
Yep. Now, one other thing it says, mana on the recharge is at the end of the turn again.
Yep.
You only gain 1.
Yes. So if you spend it too quickly,
you're gonna be out of mana very quickly.
yeah, at the end of the game, you're going to suffer for that. Focus you can spend to do the interesting things that the ranged guys
it generates
can do.
a little bit quicker, but you need to stay out of melee, otherwise you're losing more.
And rage, you can spend rage as well. So
Now,
as you build it, you can spend it.
There is one other focus skill I would like to talk about, which is on wind, which was on my side, which came in very, very handy. So Lloyd, if you can pass me wind. And I'm not even going to let the joke fly for that one.
Right. I was trying to think of what was the best joke to come up with.
I have passed wind.
Now, wind has a reactive ability down at the bottom, which is called blur. It costs 1 focus to do, which means she gets to roll 1 of the green dice. And if she gets the critical symbol, which is this one, it's like a little nail through a star, she dodges all the damage.
Yeah.
Now, it's a 1 in 3 chance, so it's useful, but not overpowered. The other thing is, if she fails it, you spent 1 focus to do it.
She loses another focus.
If she gets hit, which sort of balances it out. I thought it was a really cool little mechanic, and again, it makes them feel heroic that all of a
It's a
sudden
nice
you can't touch
narrative feel to it.
If you hit her, is it broken wind then after that?
Warren did break my wind during that game.
I did many times.
Yes, but it works so beautifully once you're into it and once you learn those symbols. The one other set of symbols we haven't discussed just yet are these little shields, and they go in this order: melee, ranged, magic, and I can't remember the last one.
Arcane.
I don't think.
I think it is.
No, because I think the second to last one is arcane, so I can't remember what the last one is. But essentially, those are your defenses. So whenever someone hits you, you will minus whatever is inside the little shield from that, and then on top of that, you will minus another one for whatever morale you have.
So that's basically your defense against all the attacks.
Okay,
Exactly.
I have one thing I do want to ask.
Yes.
Those are your wound counters.
Because it looks like I'm at a casino.
Currently,
You
this
have a
is
ton
this is
of
the
wound counters.
this is the current design of the wound counters. I'm not sure where they'll go once the Kickstarter
So
ends.
1, 5,
but-
10, 20.
So basically, as you can see, a lot of these characters have an awful lot of wounds. You know, the 2 demigods have 50 wounds. You know, even the Sentinel, which Justin went after as the weak link in my
24.
force, still had 24 wounds.
Yeah.
But you apply a lot of damage. It does feel very killy. If you focused, you would probably kill a character outright if it was something like a Sentinel.
Well, I mean,
if it's something like Stonewall, which Justin had, is like 44 points. He's very hard to kill.
Yes, and he's ridiculous on his defense because his melee defense is 6, plus another 2 for the commander's armor, which was one of the items I had. Because you do get items on your demigods as well, which changes it up even more.
Well, now that's what I wanted to talk about. The demigods, they're not just sitting idly by, right? These guys get equipment. Okay, so they get these equipment cards that they can then kind of attach to their
To themselves.
themselves.
Right, so
Right.
what we're talking about these cards.
Yeah, so for Warren, he picked up, say, the heavy crossbow and
can't
used
see
it to great effect.
Yeah. So that gave me much better attacks. Basically, it's an opportunity to really
Hammer home on your opponent at some point.
bring these demigods to life. So they're not just hanging back. You know, they are getting into combat.
And it does mean that as you change them each game, they feel different.
What do you mean you picked it up? You pick
You
these
pick
up
it up.
as you play?
pick it up at the start.
No,
of
you
the
pick
game
it up as part of the meta game. You decide
Okay.
what equipment you're going to
to get.
to apply to your demigods.
Yeah, and depending on which of your demigods you are, what you're allowed changes. Because if you look at the warlord here, he's allowed 2 swords. So that's this type of card in the top right. So he's allowed 2 of those and 1 of any of the 3 types. So you have items, swords, and shield stuff.
Yeah.
So Warren was getting 2 swords, mine was getting 2 shields. So mine was very defensive, where Warren's was more, okay, let's get stuck in here.
Yeah.
But again, that can force a change in your tactics, because the way mine was loaded out, my demigod was nigh on unkillable.
Yes.
Which meant Warren had to focus all his efforts on killing my minions.
Now it's worth talking about the win conditions. Now the winning conditions could change because you could decide that by setting your own missions. But in general, the win condition is if I kill your demigod, I win. Or if I kill all your heroes, I win.
Yep.
Now what that left us with, it was this amazing battle where Justin's primary strategy was to kill my warlord, because he was 50 points, whereas here he'd have to collectively do about 200 points of damage. So his entire game plan became focusing on my warlord to try and take him out.
Yes, and I also focused on Sentinel to break that nice combo you had.
For me, it made more sense to target his heroes. So I was putting all of my attention on trying to kill every one of his heroes. Now, the game is so well balanced that I've got to say it came down to the very last move of the very last turn.
It came down to a matter of 2 activations, because you had your Pegasus Knight, and if she had 2 more activations, you could have blocked me from killing your warlord.
Yeah, but it was basically the last turn. It was a very, very close fought game. It ebbed and it flowed, and you didn't really know right until the last moment of who was going to win. And it's a great game. I've got to say, it's a game, as I've said, that could become a hobby. It's one that you and your gaming buddies could spend a long time perfecting and getting to grips with. I can see a bright future for this, because if these guys, they've got beautiful artwork, the game mechanics, albeit a little bit complex.
Once you're into them, it's fine. Although we did miss 2 tokens, which are these with the little cross, which show when you've activated one of your heroes or your warlord, you put it on yourself. The other is these little black squares, which mark a negative to your morale, which suddenly drags it the other way.
Anyway, back to how it plays. So it's.
I just want to quickly touch. You were saying that artwork, and I have to agree. The artwork is immense for this.
Unbelievably good.
And then you have all the cool minis coming along for it as well.
So it's got great artwork, great minis. I can see them potentially going down this route where they're releasing new minis. You buy a blister, it's got the mini in it, it's got the artwork in it, and you could have...
You've got the hobby aspect, because you're learning how that plays, you're learning the combos, you're painting up your mini, you've got...
You've got the great backstory as well. If you haven't had a chance to, guys, I really, really suggest you go and quickly watch the Kickstarter video, because it gives you that lovely drop into the background of this.
It's the only thing is, and it's something that I want to try and hammer home, is that this is not a game that you're going to have fun with within 15 minutes. Okay, it's going to take a little bit of dedication to get over that first couple of turns, and your first game or two, you're going to be coming away from it thinking, "Oh, I wish I'd done that different. Oh, I wish I'd done that different." We've played this a couple of days ago, and I've got to say, I've spent about 2 days thinking about it.
Well, that's the sign of a good game.
Yeah, it's in my head, and I've been thinking about it constantly, thinking,
what am I going to do the next time?
I really want to try this and that.
So, where Warren walked away from it thinking, oh, what could I have done differently? I've been thinking, right, what characters would I like to trade out for in this instead of having that?
Yeah.
So I was looking at it from the step before actually what was in the game.
Well, there you go. That's as about an in-depth review as you're likely to get on Demigods Rising. I've got to say, best of luck to the team over there that are putting it together. I just want to say it was definitely worth getting over that initial hurdle of, oh my God, there's so many parts. It's when you opened it up, it was a myriad of parts.
It was a little intimidating.
But highly intimidating.
Whenever I stepped into the studio today, we had basically left the game sitting from where we were. I was able to, in say about 7-8 minutes, I had it reset back to 0, so we could have ran again.
It looks like a lot of parts. Try to get over that, because once you get into it and you start to see all the fluid dynamics and stuff that they've built into it, it's fabulous. It really is.
So I'm just going to ask one question. Does it play faster, or is there a load of bookkeeping?
No, there's not a load of bookkeeping. Your bookkeeping all happens as you go along.
You do have to be able to do normal mathematics, but that's no big deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Add and subtract.
Yeah.
There's no multiplication. There's nothing complex in it.
Yeah.
And all your resource management and all takes place in steps.
Yeah.
As
And
you
you
go
see
along.
it all in front of you once it's done.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I highly, highly recommend it. If you want something that's an in-depth game that's going to keep you and your gamers occupied for, I have
Months
no
upon
idea,
months.
months and months and months, go and check it out. Now is probably as good a time as any to get on board with this. Because we all know Kickstarter's good value for money.
Yep.
Right, we're going to take a quick break.
Wait. One thing you forgot to say is that we currently have a competition for this running.
You're right. If you are a Beast of War backstager and you're a pledger on this game, you have an opportunity to win your pledge for free.
For free?
For free? Yes, all you have to do is be a Beast of War backstager and be a pledger on the game. We then have a little form that you can fill out to put in your details. And then once the Kickstarter closes, we will be picking a winner at random who will win his pledge for free.
Well, his or her.
Or her pledge. Anyway, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back after this. And welcome back. Okay, so one of the big things that happened this week was Hasbro
Yes.
and Shapeways have, they've been doing this thing where they've been kind of partnering up, okay? And they'd partnered up recently, back in July time, right? Where they partnered up on My Little Pony.
Right.
And basically encouraged the community to come in and create My Little Pony miniatures that they were then able to sell, okay?
Yeah.
Right.
They've come back and they've expanded that now, okay? And they're inviting designers on Shapeways to do stuff for Dragonvale, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
D&D?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I have got to say, Hasbro, you are totally in there. In the same month, effectively, that we've had the chief executive of Games Workshop, the acting chief executive of Games Workshop, saying, 3D printing's, it's not on the horizon, and if and when it does, we'll create Games Workshop 3D printers and we'll sell them.
Even when it does.
In the same month, to then have Hasbro come out and say, okay, Shapeways, we're giving you kind of an intellectual license to get people to create these minis and create these products that they can go on and sell, I think just shows night and day the difference between the vision of those two companies.
Yeah.
It's
I'm confused. The members of the site do the designs.
Yes, the members of Shapeways. So Shapeways,
And if they're shocking,
well, if they're shocking, they won't get
turned
through.
down.
They get turned down. So it's what they call a groundbreaking intellectual property and 3D printing partnership.
which has
Okay,
been crowdsourced.
so it's yeah, and
Essentially.
it is effectively crowdsourcing. This is probably one of the most innovative things that they've done. Since Wizards of the Coast did the whole D20 system that they opened up. I think it was Wizards of the Coast. I don't believe it was TSR that did it. I think it was Wizards of the Coast, where they opened up the whole D20 system. I think this shows huge confidence on Hasbro's part and a realization on their part that intellectual property needs to be managed, not enforced. Okay? And I think it just, to me, it's the night and day difference between the company strategies. One of them, Games Workshop, seems to have this inbuilt fear of anything new and this belief that if they close their eyes, it won't happen. Whereas the other seems to have this, we need to look at new and interesting ways, because if we don't, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this now to every single one of you in the industry. Okay, well, we've worked with almost all of you now. Technology happens. Disruptive things happen. You can't stop them. You can't ignore them. So embrace them. And that applies to Mantic, Battlefront, every one of you. Understand that technology will always find a way. It just does. And Games Workshop, you're the biggest culprit of them all because you were the one that had the most resources of them all to be able to do stuff with it. Yes, you're now getting into ebooks and stuff like that there, but technologies happen. And not only technologies, movements happen. You know, changes in the dynamic of how people interact and social networks and stuff happen. They don't go away if you close your eyes and pretend they're not there.
It's not very on the ball to say, if it happens, we will do this.
Yeah.
You've got to have some sort of contingency in place.
The other thing with this is Hasbro has basically opened it up that everyone who wants to try their hand at designing this kind of stuff has an outlet to show off their stuff.
Yeah, they have an opportunity to get in and try it. Yeah, and to get in and do it.
Yeah, it's not even getting and try it. If they see someone incredibly talented coming through this, they'll snap them up.
Potentially. I never really thought of it as a kind of a recruitment thing. To be fair, I don't think Hasbro are thinking of it as a recruitment thing because, you know, if they want to recruit, they can recruit.
Yeah,
you know,
but it's another avenue.
You could always get a rising star out of it, but it shows the night and day thinking of two corporations basically. One which is it feels like it's in constant denial of what's going to happen, and one that's trying to embrace change.
It's going to happen. I mean, 3D printing is a bit like the invention of the printing press.
Well, I mean, eventually 3D printers are going to become cheap enough and good enough to come into the home. I don't expect it to be soon, but eventually it will.
Look, you don't know when it's going to happen. Tom Kirby, from whatever he's talking about his arse because he doesn't know when it's going to happen either. He can talk about how it's so. You have no idea what R&D and what innovations lie ahead in the next 6 months. You know, yes, you might believe that you're at the forefront of manufacturing technologies and stuff like that, but you have no idea what's around that corner. None of us do. You know, it's the speed at which technologies can change, the speed at which new developments can take place, can catch us all by surprise. You know, you look at Microsoft, right? I'll give you a prime example. Microsoft were creating basically smartphones for maybe 3, 5, maybe 7, 8 years, possibly, before the iPhone came along, right? Yeah. I remember when we traveled the world doing bits and pieces of digital media. I remember running around with HTC Windows smartphones and stuff like that. And the whole time they came with these stupid little styluses and things. And I was going, oh, it does a lot of stuff, but it's so hard to use. I wish I could just, and why does it have a keyboard? It doesn't need a keyboard if I could just press it.
Yeah, no, you see, I remember some of the really old ridiculous ones, because I remember a phone from when I was younger. It was essentially a brick, but you flipped it open, and it was essentially like a mini little laptop inside it.
That was a Nokia. Yeah, yes. It was a Nokia 910 or something.
Yeah, it was huge.
In one iteration,
suddenly,
Apple changed it.
Boom.
That iPhone changed the world.
Yep.
It didn't do anything new, but it did it better.
Yes.
The same thing can happen in 3D printing.
It only has to take one person to do it well once.
Yes. And then suddenly
but 3D printing is a technology that people want to work.
Yes.
True.
And I don't mean people as in me, you, the average Joe down the street. Organizations like big organizations, important organizations like NASA and all that will want 3D printing to work.
They want to be able to 3D print a part and test it.
It is a technology that it will change the world, and it will happen. You're not going to be able to sit back and stop that. But my point is,
someone built basically a 3D printer, except it was for concrete, and he printed himself a castle.
I remember this. I think I showed you that.
Yeah, I think
he did it in his back garden.
Yeah, well, 3D printing is used in China to manufacture buildings. There's skyscrapers in China that are
made from a 3D printer.
They're now being 3D printed on site, and they also 3D print buildings off site and then transport them. It's going to be everywhere. And fine detail 3D printing, like we looked at it a few years back.
We were
And it
looking
was
at
using-
3D printing about 15 years ago.
And it was using dust. It was basically using particles, and those particles were laid down and glued together. And it was full color at that time.
Yeah.
It wasn't very nice, but
Yeah, but it was getting functional.
yes, and the detail and stuff that was
About
there.
10 years ago. 15 years is too far
Yeah,
back.
it was about 10
Yeah,
years
but
ago.
I remember one other thing you showed me from years ago, whenever we were, well,
Was this
before
the
I moved to
3D
England.
printed hand?
No, this was a three-dimensional lathe you sent me a video for,
Yes.
where it essentially took a block of metal, did it inside this thing, and from nowhere it just carves out a dirt bike helmet.
Yes, that technology is dead though.
Is it? Fair
But
enough.
the reason being, it's there for it has a purpose, okay, and a niche purpose, and it will always be there for that purpose.
Okay.
The problem is it's subtractive,
Ah,
right? So you need a big block of something, and it
start.
subtracts everything away
Yes.
to leave what's there.
Yes.
3D printing
It
is
works
additive.
in the positive. Yes.
It's additive. So in other words,
Yes.
it starts with nothing and
And
creates
then
something.
Got it.
When we started, there was a couple of materials. Now you can 3D print in various metals.
Mm-hmm.
You can 3D print in various polymers.
Yep.
It's absolutely incredible. The detail will come, because the other thing about it is, do you remember inkjets?
Yes.
Right? Do you remember the first inkjets that we got? And they had a DPI. What was it? 30 DPI or 100 DPI or something like that.
Yes.
Within a
The
period.
shot 1200.
Within a period of about 5-6 years, you were suddenly buying inkjet printers that had like 1200 DPI
Okay, I'm going to ask the stupid question.
dots per inch. That was
Thank
the
you.
resolution that they were able to.
But before
they were
that,
able
we
to
had a
print.
dot matrix printer.
Yeah,
A dot matrix printer?
a dot matrix printer was basically
Probably
just
older than you did.
hammering
stabbed the
dots.
page.
It stabbed a ribbon
Right.
and left dots on a page that
Okay.
made the. Made
I think
a
I may
thing.
have had one of those.
Yeah, so the printing technologies, resolutions, and things like that, materials science.
It will simply advance and advance
Mm.
and advance.
So, but let's say for a second he's right. Let's say it's 10 years away. Okay.
I'm not disputing that it's a long way off. I think it's a short-sighted to say we won't do anything until it arrives.
Yeah, that is my
So-
next point.
It's that
Why are
being
you
reactive instead
not-
of proactive.
Innovating. Why are you not working with your community
Mm.
to make things happen? Business. Tom, you're in the dark ages if you think that business is like Henry Ford, where you build it and just sell it. Business isn't like that anymore. Business is now, it's a collaboration of the business and the community, and inspiring the community. Apple's Salesforce, right?
Yep.
Do you want to know who's Apple's biggest marketing asset is?
The people standing in their stores or their fans online.
It's the people that buy their product. Apple's biggest sales force are the people that buy the product.
Well, for
They-
the
they
longest time, I
invest-
have refused to get an iPhone.
They invest in the people that are standing in the stores,
Mhm.
but those people that are standing in the stores are there to work alongside the people that are buying the product. And they have these genius bars and stuff like that there. And
Yep.
they try and create an environment that reinforces for the people that buy the product, you have done the right thing.
Yes,
Okay?
this is a
We are
worthwhile
in
purchase.
partnership together here to do
The
this.
thing I
So-
like about 3D printing
Mhm.
is it allows all of us to become essentially miniatures modders. In the PC market, you get lots of modders and they mod
Yeah.
games, they put new models and stuff into
Yeah.
it.
Mm.
So I go home and there's been a new release. Say some company's released a new miniature.
Yeah.
And I'll go home that night. But they've not just released a miniature, they've released variants and say, do you know what? At home, you can pick what arm, you can pick what head, you can pick
Yeah.
this, you can pick that. You can just tick the boxes,
I
but you're
saw
essentially
I
modding
saw
your
a
own miniature.
I saw a Kickstarter for that a while ago,
Jump it all
where they
together.
actually had a computer program where you go in, you choose the components for your miniature, they 3D print it, and send it out to you.
Yeah.
That's the exciting
That
thing.
exists.
If a company's going, we know you want to be creative,
Yep.
here is the means to be creative.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's all about perception, right? It's about the perception that Hasbro's giving here. Hasbro is giving the perception that they are on the ball,
Yep.
that they are embracing new technologies,
You mean they've got their hand in their pocket?
and that they're going to be at the forefront of it.
That
Okay?
and that they are supporting a creative community.
Is my joke never going to get acknowledged?
Yes. Did you hear about the man,
crap, here we go.
man who has his hand on other man's ball? Is not feeling quite himself
Oh.
today.
Suddenly, from a lovely highbrow show, we went
Anyway.
right down into the car.
Hasbro are demonstrating that they have the innovation,
Yep.
they have the foresight to get involved with their community and lead the way. Okay, the other company is given the impression of
stagnation.
back.
Do not
This is ours. This is no. You have no right to talk about this. This is ours. You just buy it and you do as we say.
They never give off any community vibe.
No. But it's not. This is not Hammer on Games Workshop, by the way. If you're watching this thinking, "Oh, it's so anti-Games Workshop," we love Games Workshop. We love what they do. But for God's sake, listen to us on this one. You have one of the most innovative, creative companies in the world. Show it. Have the confidence to work with your community. Have the confidence to lead for a change. You know, to get out there and lead in the world. Not lead in this little sphere of the hobby market. You have the opportunity to show leadership in the entire manufacturing sphere of how you worked with the community, how you led the community, how you innovated with the community. And don't let Hasbro be the only ones that are doing it.
Yep. Well, you said in backstage we're going to talk about the breakdown.
Yes.
It'd be interesting. Is Games Workshop in the breakdown?
Yes.
We'll see it backstage.
I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just asking, are they in the back?
There's good news and bad news.
Because you
for
say
Games
in
Workshop.
America it's hit its peak. This is the highest.
Yeah, but it's not its peak. Okay, I'm not saying it. Whenever you say it's peak, it looks like
it's the highest it's been.
finally broken $700 million.
Yes, but this is the overall trade for every game, not just one, I assume.
Yes, for every game. But
Right.
I have the full breakdowns,
Yep.
and we're going to be talking about it. And there's some real warning signs and
Right.
some
I don't
real
want to sound negative,
good things
but
on
this
the
is
way.
the year that Games Workshop were down.
Yes.
Yes, we discussed this at
I know
length.
that.
At length.
I'm just
Yes, but he's
drawing
making a point.
another line.
In the year that Games Workshop suffered a drop in sales.
Yep.
Okay, forget about all the spending, whatever. The big figure was they released more product than they've ever released.
Yep.
They had a drop in sales.
Yep.
And yet, for the first time, sales in America in the hobby market
Have gone up.
reached the $700 million mark.
It'll be interesting to see what we get in that. I'm looking forward to that discussion.
This is very, very simple. You know, enthuse your community.
Yeah.
Enthuse your community. Have your community be your sales force.
Yeah.
You know, don't have them apologizing for you, which is basically what has been happening now for 5 years.
Yeah.
Don't have them apologize for you. Have them sing your praises in an honest, genuine way, not a brainwashed, I don't know what else is going on in the world kind of a way. Oh, rant over. It was never supposed to be a rant. I apologize for that.
It was only a sprinkling of rant at the end.
We're going to take a break and then we're going to talk about 40K and how much fun we're having with it at the moment and how much more fun the world could be having with it right after this. And we're back. Okay, so this week I've had a stupid amount of fun playing some 40K.
Okay.
We have a 40K campaign that's on the way, and we've started building the first of the environments. So the first 2 episodes of this campaign are taking place on an ocean platform.
Yes.
We recorded
deep ocean
a
platform.
deep ocean
So
platform.
has to be a deep ocean platform.
Deep
You're
ocean
not
platform.
going to just be off the mainland, or are you just right out in the middle of the Dead Sea?
If you're interested in getting involved, we
Well,
recorded
the funny thing about the Dead Sea, Justin, is it's surrounded by land.
I'm not even going to rise to it. On you go, Warren.
I completely missed that. So if you'd like to get involved, head on over to Beasts of War. We have a Backstager video where we've started to chronicle the construction of this first environment. As the environments get built, we've got a series called For the Love of Log, where we are talking about what we're doing, what we intend to do, asking for advice and ideas from the community. In fact, do you know what? Here's a little clip. Episode 1 and 2 are going to take place on an ocean platform, okay? I don't want to go too much into the plot because we're still kind of working out the plot. We have a general plot idea of where the campaign might go, and it's kind of split into win-loss scenarios, so it goes a different direction depending on what army actually wins on any particular game. However, when we come to build the actual tables and the scenery, that often kind of affects minor details in the plot as well. So that's why I'm not going too deep into the plot. That's for the campaign. But we do know that episode 1 and 2 are going to take place in the ocean, okay? So,
What have we got
this is our ocean platform, okay? It is an absolutely astounding piece of terrain from wargame tournaments. We talked a little bit about it on a Weekender XLBS. However, now that I've had a chance to actually work with it, I am in love with what they have done with this. It is absolutely lovely. Now, you see it at the moment. It's just got a layer of colour on. So we have no weathering, we have no details. There's still lots of things like these wee barriers and things that need to be glued on and put on everywhere. Basically, we're at the stage where we're experimenting with layouts to try and get a feel for what it all kind of looks like.
You can see we've gone for bright colours, though.
Yes.
And that's because we're going for that industrial look. When they build stuff like this, they don't build it in dark colours, otherwise they wouldn't be able to see where they're going.
No, when we come to actually fight in a city, it'll probably look pretty much like a city as we all know it. But when we wanted to do an ocean platform, it is kind of Imperial run-ish, the ocean platform. It's certainly human, if not Imperial. It's certainly human. So if you want more details on what the actual campaign and the board is about, head on over to Beasts of War. Please get involved in that, because this campaign we think is going to be brilliant, and we're
wanting everybody who loves 40k on our site to get involved.
Yeah. If you love 40k, come and get involved in that. And what we're thinking of doing is if we can get enough kind of interested people behind it, the final aspects of that campaign, we're thinking of doing something global, okay, where everybody can participate in that. The campaigns obviously will go out front stage, but if you are a backstager, or if you're considering becoming a backstager, you can get involved in helping us craft and construct it all, and that'd be a massive, massive help. Anyway, as part of this, I started to play test. We have the ocean platform, and I have been playing some games of 40k and having a stupid amount of fun with a new guy that you'll hopefully be seeing very soon on Beasts of War called Graham. Myself and Graham were playing my Minotaurs. I was just using the vanilla Space Marines list. And his amazing chaos. He has a stupendous chaos army. So we were playing out on this table, and it's my first real chance to start getting deeper and deeper into the 7th edition rules, which I am loving. Okay, I will admit, I have a couple of things. The whole I go you go thing, kind of.
Now that you've been away from it,
I've been away from 40k for a while, and I've tried things like Bolt Action, Infinity, and stuff like that there. I have to admit, I do find the I go, you go a little bit boring, okay? I do find it a little bit tedious having to wait for my turn, but I'm an impatient guy anyway. So it's like, I do love to be able to get stuck in there and have my turn. So
I don't find it boring, I find it a little bit more frustrating. Looking at something happening and thinking, "There's nothing I can do about this."
You have no sway over what happens here.
Yeah, it all happens, and there's nothing I can do about it. I can't react to it. I can't adjust anything. I can't,
But that's part of the game.
Yeah, it is part of it. And do you know what? For the amount of irksomeness that was, it was nothing in comparison to the crack that I had. I had an immense amount of fun.
You had some good laughs with this new fella?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Graham thinks along the same lines as me. It's incredibly narrative.
Oh God, another Warren in the studio.
He is my battle brother now on this. We had an immense amount of fun. Great. However, the thing I want to talk about is these things here. These are the tactical objectives, which today, and I'll have something different to say on 40k in the weeks coming up.
Okay.
But today, this morning.
So what are these?
This is the savior of 40k.
This one tiny little box.
Yes. It's not the only thing. There's a ton of stuff to love about 7th edition. But I want to sing the praises of this. I have a feeling that the best games of 40k you will ever play will be as a result, most likely, of these.
Okay.
So what happens? At the start of the game, you lay out 6 objectives.
Okay.
Or myself and Graham laid out 3 objectives because we wanted quick games so as we could test what was happening on the platforms and stuff like that and see, was there too much line of sight, etc. So you have your 6 games,
Yep.
and then in the particular scenario that you're playing, it'll tell you how many cards to draw. So, for example, Lloyd, you might draw 3 cards, and Justin, I need to shuffle these slightly better than this. Justin might draw 3 cards.
Right.
Okay, now let me bring the. Oh, for goodness sake, they're all the bloody same, right? Hang on, I really do need to shuffle this. So it's let me try to get something a little bit different in here. So
Yeah, I would suggest a
There.
point shuffle for things like that, but I think it would take too long on camera.
that will do there.
Okay.
Okay, so each turn you'll be drawing more cards, but basically in turn 1, you want to try and meet some of these objectives. Okay,
Yes.
so you can each see your objectives,
Yep.
or if you wanted, you could play them blind. It'll say, it'll say in the mission, or you can make it up
So
yourself.
playing them blind, I can see them, but Lloyd can't see them.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So Justin, your first objective is called Recon.
Okay.
And basically, if the mission has the mysterious objectives mission special rule, score 1 victory point if every objective on the battlefield has been identified by the end of this or any previous turn.
Okay.
So suddenly, as well as the overall kind of mission that you're setting,
Yeah.
this starts to zone you in on things
so
around the
suddenly
battlefield.
I have to start hopping to each objective to see
Yeah.
what they are.
You're less worried about just going and killing your opponent, and you start to zone in
Yeah.
on different parts of the battlefield. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like the objectives in Risk.
Yes. Yes.
Capture the 3 cities.
Mm-hmm. Score 1 victory point if you control objective marker 4 at the end of your turn. So, bam, you could be scoring at the end of that turn. And as new objectives come out, each turn starts to feel different. Here's a really good one, Supremacy. Score D3 victory points if you control at least 2 objective markers and at least twice as many objectives as your opponent controls at the end of your turn.
I'm a big fan
So
of
not
this.
only are you trying to control 2, you want to try and push him off
It
an
feels
objective
a hell
as
of a lot
well.
less static.
Oh, it's
Because
brilliant.
suddenly, with that second one, suddenly, okay, I need to make a big push for an objective here
Yeah.
to actually hook it. And, okay, he's on there, it's lightly defended. Can I get the troops into position to actually start knocking him off that objective to get that?
I'm a big fan of this because, say your mates come up, you've blocked out 6 hours of your day. You say, let's play a few games. I've got my list. You've got your list.
Yeah.
Let's say the table stayed the same.
Yeah.
This allows you to change your games up
Oh, every
without
time.
changing anything else that takes any length of time. Just deal some new cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on the other side, you have cards like Assassinate. A victory point at the end of your turn if at least 1 enemy character was removed as a casualty. If 3 or more enemy characters were removed as casualties during your turn, score D3 victory points instead.
Wow.
It is
That sounds like a challenging one.
stunning addition to 40k.
Yeah.
Absolutely stunning addition. I
It
got
looks
to use
good
the word
too.
stunning.
Yeah, it's very,
It
very
looks
nice
stunning. The
Yeah.
cards.
Here we
It's,
go again, stunning.
For me, one of the biggest problems with 40k was you'll always find that one opponent, and all he's interested in ever playing is that same mission where you
Annihilation.
line up and you kill each other. And to be fair, it's one of the crappiest
Boring
ways
meat
to
grinders
play
ever.
40k.
Or you find an opponent who just has a list. Let's say you're fighting
His list is stand back and just press buttons. He doesn't
Gun
actually
line.
move anything or
Gun
do
line.
He's
anything.
what you're
pounding you
talking
to
about.
death.
Yeah.
Yep.
This forces him to play differently and
Yeah.
makes the game more exciting.
Yeah.
It's if you the other type of scenario where you want to use these is if you are getting together on the off chance and you maybe don't have the time or the inclination to try and think up a huge amount of narrative about your game. There's your narrative in a box.
Yeah.
It is absolutely fabulous.
Yep. And it's not anything that has to weave into an overarching story. It tells the story from the
Yeah.
randomness of them coming together.
Now, that's just the beginning.
Okay.
Okay? Because for me, it doesn't end with that box.
Okay.
Because what Workshop have done there is they've created what I think is a framework for writing your own tactical objectives and thinking of your own kinds of little mini missions and stuff like that can happen in your games. There's no reason why you couldn't go off and create your own deck of these things that or create decks of these things that are more suited to your army, a la Dead Zone style. Okay,
Aha.
so your orcs would have mission objectives.
Yeah.
Your Tau would have mission objectives, and you and your mates can get down and work them all out and make the Tau ones a little bit more Tau-like and make the orc ones a little bit more orc-like.
Yeah, so for the orc, something like get the bits.
Yeah, it's absolutely fabulous. It turns out I wasn't the only one that had that idea.
Yeah,
and I
I've
got
seen this little box floating around.
this little mysterious little box through the post.
Someone proposed to you or something, have they?
There's no wedding ring in it. It's better.
Is it better?
It's better. This has come from NM Games, a little tiny startup by Luke. Okay, so a fella called Luke. If you want to check him out, he's on Facebook. Do a search for, I think it's XMN Games or MN Games. And what Luke decided was, yeah, this is really cool. I'm going to make my own up. So what he did
So,
is
is
he's
it
created
generic mission objectives
it's
that could
just-
go into any game?
Yep. He's created his own deck of mission objectives because he looked at those ones. He said, fabulous idea. I think I could do my own that are even more interesting.
And then share them with everybody.
Yeah. So what you have is you have a little bit of an intro to what he is, what these are, a little disclaimer because we all need a disclaimer to keep GW off our backs.
Yep.
And then finally, a little how to score.
Ooh, those are really nicely laid out.
And these are just little prototypes.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, you have air superiority, assassination, behind enemy lines, breakthrough, bunker assault, denial zones. And he's went in and created a cracking little set of different mission objectives that work along the same lines as the tactical objectives.
Yeah.
I have had a bit of a play with these, and I absolutely love them. And it demonstrated to me that the world is your oyster
Yeah, when it comes to this.
for creating this kind of stuff. I think it's absolutely.
Well, it'll be interesting to see where this goes.
Well, for me, it's probably one of the best features of 7th edition, and I think it showed a great amount of, I don't know. I don't want to say innovation because we've seen mission cards and stuff before, but it showed a great amount of thought had been put into 7th edition. I'm not one of these people that subscribe to the fact that 7th edition was rushed out. I believe 7th edition was brought forward, but there's no way that product was rushed out. That product was highly polished. There's nothing wrong with that product. And they go to demonstrate it. It had been played and played and played, and they've come up with a much better version.
And suddenly,
of 40K.
with those decks of cards coming out of Games Workshop, you can do campaign tactical objective decks.
Yes.
So if you're running a special campaign, there's the objective deck for it. Off you go.
So much so, actually, I'm thinking that as we do this campaign, what we may do in some of the different scenes and environments that the campaign takes place across, because the campaign is going to be like 10 episodes or so, maybe 8-10 episodes. It's going to run right into the new year and then into next year. But what we may do at some point is actually create our own mission deck specifically for one or more battles in that campaign. If you want to get involved in that, head on over to Beasts of War and join up to Backstage, because we're going to get community input and stuff like that on the campaign now that we're starting to get our framework in place of what we wanted to do to help us flesh it all out. It's going to become a community project. We're not going to just do it on our own. We're doing the first chunk of it on our own, and there'll be some stuff we keep secret because we want some surprises. Yeah. But from the Backstagers' point of view,
this campaign has the ability to take on a life of its own.
Yes, it's over to you, the Backstagers. And for any of you guys wondering about inheritance, we haven't forgot about you. And if you don't know what that means, you will. So I think we're going to leave it at that. I've had an absolute blast with 40K. I'm working away on my battle scribe at the moment, pointing up my armies and trying to think of a way to decimate my buddy Graham because he totally outgunned me.
Well,
I don't have nearly enough melta plasma in my army.
I have to hook out the Tau Codex from the studio so I can actually start getting a few games myself then, if you really
Why
are
did you become a Tau player?
Because I was given it for free.
For free!
Cost me not a bean.
Okay, right. Just to recap, for our Backstagers, we have 2 great competitions or opportunities for you at the moment. If you're a Backstager and you're a pledger on Dungeon Saga, the new dungeon crawling game from Mantic, which has been busting stretch goals and now has the furniture, you have the opportunity to win your pledge for free. The link on how to do that is below in the show notes. And to recap, you can also do that for Demigods Rising, which if you are a fan of board games and you want something that has a really beautiful amount of depth, you need to get onto that Kickstarter. And if you do, and you're a backstager, once again, you have an opportunity to win that for free. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed my Saturday morning. It's been really good crack. Thank you so much for sitting at the end of our table. And we hope you have an amazing, amazing week of gaming. Remember that tomorrow morning over on beastsofwar.com, you can join us for the Weekender XLBS, where we're going to be talking about building Wargaming Nirvana, a Mortis that he's been building.
Yes,
World of Tanks scale models, the $700 million mark being reached in the hobby market, and is 2015 likely to be the year where we finally see convergence of digital and tabletop? Anyway, if you want to hear more about that, join us tomorrow morning. Until then, happy gaming.